Hi, thank you for joining us and reviewing this PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Almendarez and myself are the co-sponsors for Prom this year. We hosted an idea meeting for students and also held a parent presentation. So if you weren't able to attend either of those, we do ask that students and parents and guardians view this PowerPoint presentation in its entirety so that everyone has all the information required for our prom. So we'll go ahead and get started and go through the presentation. Our theme is Enchanted Garden, and it will be held on Sunday, May 19th. The venue that was voted on by students is the Sculpture Garden at the Bridgeport Arts Center. It's right down the street from White Sox Park. We're asking that students arrive that evening at 5:30 p.m. And just be advised that doors will close at promptly 6:15 p.m. Late admittance will not be allowed. So please make sure that your student has their schedule, kind of to be there on time by 5:30 and no later than 6:15 p.m. Students will have the opportunity for dinner, dancing, and pictures until 9 p.m. At 9 p.m., we will depart the Sculpture Garden and head over to Navy Pier. Students will enjoy a moonlit cruise, and there'll be plenty of refreshments and more dancing. The boat will cruise from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., weather permitting. That is by the National Coast Guard. So if we don't have great weather, then we would stay docked. And then students will return to Evergreen Park High School approximately 12:45 to 1 a.m. the latest. All students are required to return to Evergreen Park High School via the coach bus. So as I mentioned, that we are requiring students to return to Evergreen, I want to make sure we go over transportation and how that will work. Students need to arrange their own transportation to the Sculpture Garden. So we recommend that students get dropped off as parking is limited and they will not be able to access their car if they drive there for the rest of the evening. So students should arrange their own transportation to the Sculpture Garden. If a student is in need of a ride from Evergreen to the venue, they just need to let Ms. Almendarez or myself know. Once at prom, this is really important, all the rest of transportation is taken care of. We will provide transportation via coach bus from the Sculpture Garden to Navy Pier, from Navy Pier back to Evergreen Park High School. So again, the only transportation that parents need to worry about is getting students to the Sculpture Garden. And then you can certainly leave a car. If you don't want to get up at 1 a.m., I don't blame you. You can leave a car in the parking lot at the high school. So there is a dress code. Again, that's why we wanted everyone to view this presentation. It's not to inhibit anyone's style. It's, just to create an environment that's safe and comfortable for everyone. And it is a formal event, so we want to help students learn what that means. So we did provide all of this information, as I mentioned earlier, during an idea period for students and a parent presentation. And we've also asked students to share this with their dates. So everyone attending is expected to follow the dress code guidelines. If you have any questions as you're shopping for clothing, please feel free to email Ms. Almendarez or myself, and we can, help you or guide you with any changes that might need to be made. So as I mentioned, prom is a formal event. Formal attire obviously is not everyday clothing. So no jeans or casual gym shoes or sneakers or hats are permitted. And again, please make sure that if your student is bringing a guest, especially if they are from outside Evergreen Park High School, that they view this information. Formal attire may be classified as a tuxedo or dress suit, or formal dress or cocktail dress. A tuxedo or dress suit includes a jacket, a tie or bow tie, a collared shirt, or turtleneck shirt. Formal dresses may be strapless or include spaghetti straps. Bare or open backs are acceptable. However, students should not wear dresses with excessively low backs extending below the navel. 2B dresses that expose the midriff and dresses that have cutouts that expose the midriff are unfortunately not allowed. Dresses may not be shorter than nor have a slit that exceeds mid-thigh as determined by the standard fingertip rule. And for any dress that may have a neckline below the mid-bust range or have a midriff exposure or a skin-toned mesh can be sewn in and added to the dress. While we will be as reasonable as possible in our interpretation of these guidelines, unfortunately, if any student is deemed to be dressed inappropriately, the parent or guardian may be contacted and they may not be allowed into prom. So please remember this dress code, should not limit any student's ability to show their style and uniqueness, but there are some standards that we will continue to review in this presentation. We will also, you'll see in a moment, plenty of pictures that can also explain what we're referring to.
Yeah, so thank you, Ms. Durkin. My name is Ms. Almendarez. So I will continue with the presentation, just going over some examples of what is deemed acceptable and unacceptable. So in terms of the dresses around the neckline, these are examples of some dresses that are acceptable. They are around the mid-bust range. The deep plunging necklines are not allowed. So you can see here, these are some examples. And like Ms. Durkin said, the dress code does follow the same standards as our standard school dress code policy in terms of the fingertip rule. So if fingertips are down at your side, the slits on dresses may not exceed the fingertips or go higher than the fingertips. So you can see here some examples of acceptable dresses with slits and unacceptable dresses. And again, the midriffs, any cutouts or midriff showing, there's just no flesh of that can be shown around the midriff area. However, if your dress does include any kind of cutouts, as long as a mesh, a skin toned colored mesh is sewn into the dress, that is okay. But there can't be any flesh exposed in that area. And in terms of backs, the dresses are acceptable as long as they are above the navel range. And here's some examples of acceptable and unacceptable dresses if they're deemed too low in the back area. And in terms of tuxedos, we previously mentioned that this is a formal event. So tuxedos must include a jacket, a collared shirt with a tie or bow tie, or a turtleneck with a jacket and a suit complete. T-shirts and jeans are not acceptable. So as you can see here, these are all examples of acceptable attire. And these are some examples of unacceptable or incomplete suits. So while everyone is dressed nicely, there's just some pieces that are missing. So some of them are missing jackets, some of them are missing shirt and tie, some of them are wearing jeans. So this is just some examples of what would be deemed incomplete. Now, students are able to remove their jackets once they enter prom, but we just ask that they, come to prom dressed formally, and then as the night goes on and they're dancing, they're able to remove their jackets, but we just wanted to ensure that they come dressed with a complete outfit. Here's some examples of acceptable footwear. So obviously we have the formal attire with heels, flats, loafers, traditional dress shoes, but gym shoes are acceptable as long as they are, new, clean. We know that is kind of the style now to have gym shoes worn. As long as they're clean and they look nice, they are acceptable. These are some examples of unacceptable footwear. So, we're not going to have Crocs, slides, dirty old gym shoes. Now, if students do choose to bring a pair of, sandals to change into as the night goes on. If they don't want to wear their heels for the entire evening, that's okay. But, they just can't come dressed with those initial flip-flops to prom. So now talking about prom pictures, we will have a photographer. Tom Killeran will be at the Sculpture Garden to take optional pictures. So we wanted to give you that information ahead of time of what packages are available. The students will be able to take their pictures and receive their packages the evening of prom. So here's the prices listed here on this presentation. They will accept cash, check or card for these payments. Now we would like to discuss the steps to be completed. So after the students were presented with this information, they were asked to join a Google Classroom that we have put in place for Prom 2024. So if you're familiar with Google Classroom, if you enter the code listed on after bullet point number 1, you'll be able to join our classroom and have access to the information that we will be sharing. All of our forms, our permission forms, will be uploaded and submitted through this Google Classroom. So the forms won't be available until March, starting March 5th. And will be due by April 8th. So we give students just over a month to be able to complete these forms. So there's 2 that are going to be required. The document of understanding is one form that basically has all the bullet points of making sure that students understand the rules and the policies and guidelines of prom, and they have to sign off on that. The second form is where the students have to acknowledge that they understand the dress code. And then they also have to ensure that they are in good standing with various departments here at EPCHS, such as the business office, the counseling department, the dean's office, and the LRC. So as long as the students are in good standing with all of those departments, and we'll explain what that means in a moment, then that form will be submitted to the Google Classroom as well. Like I mentioned, those are the 2 required forms. However, if a student is bringing a guest who is a non-EPCHS student, that's an additional optional form that would have to be completed. This form basically asks for the guest's information, and then we would also need an ID uploaded with that guest pass. That would include a driver's license, a state ID, or if the student is another high school student, it would be a high school ID is acceptable as well. We just have to ensure that the student's guest is under 21 years of age. Anyone high school age up to age 20 is allowed, but not 21 or over. And then after all of those forms have been uploaded by April 8th, our prom tickets will be available for sale during lunches or after school in the cafeteria the week of April 15th through April 19th. So it'll be a full week. But like I previously mentioned, all of the forms must be completed and submitted to the Google Classroom prior to purchasing a ticket. We will not sell tickets to anyone who has not previously uploaded their permission forms. So in terms of tickets, last year our tickets were priced at $200 per ticket. We do know that this year ticket prices will increase slightly, not significantly. We are still finalizing a price for students. We're trying to find ways to bring the costs down, but just due to venue increase prices and stuff, we do know that the price will increase slightly, but we will confirm that price for you as soon as possible. In terms of how we chose our venue options, students were surveyed during the summer. We had a survey about various different venue options, as well as having a post-prom event at Navy Pier. So the students were surveyed and the vast majority of students voted on this option. So, that's where we came to our selection. But again, the tickets will be sold during lunches and after school, April 15th through 19th. We will accept cash and check made out to checks made out to EPCHS during those times. Credit cards will be accepted as well. However, we wanted to ensure that you were aware that there's an additional 4% fee, a service fee added onto credit card charges. So cash or checks are preferred, and then the credit cards will have that additional fee. And again, all paperwork must be submitted prior to purchasing a prom ticket. And something else that we would like to make sure that you know is that all of the school fees must also be paid prior to purchasing a ticket. So students, in order to be eligible for prom, like I mentioned, you have to be in good standing with various departments. So I'll explain what those mean. So you need to be in good standing with the attendance office and the dean's office, which means you cannot be on social suspension due to your excessive absences. You cannot be on loss of privileges. The business office, you have to have all of your school fees paid up to date. You need to have in the LRC, you cannot have any missing books or any book fees if you've lost any books. And then you also must have be in good standing with the counseling department. So that means you must be on track to graduate. If students are failing all of their classes, prom, while we want this to be an experience for all of our students, we have to remind them that it's also a privilege. It's something that they have to earn. So, we want to make sure that the priority is making sure that you are on track to graduate. That's first and foremost, the most important priority. All school rules apply. So any students or their guests who violate school rules will be required to leave prom. Parents or guardians may be required to pick up their student if school personnel find a reasonable cause to believe that a student is under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or other prohibited substances. The students will be turned over to the police department. And another thing we want students to just make sure that they're aware of is that this is not the police department in Evergreen Park. This is the Chicago Police Department, because our venues and the post-prom event will be in Chicago. So we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of all the rules and plan to have a safe evening. Another thing that we want to make sure that all students are aware of is that all students and their guests must have a current photo ID on them on prom night. So we will ensure, we will send messages and reminders about this, but in addition to your prom attire, we want to make sure that everybody knows that they need to have their IDs as well. From the dean's office, so the attendance is required. Like I mentioned earlier, you cannot be on social suspension or on loss of privileges. And those happen when you have an excessive absences that are not excused. So just some reminders about attendance. So students are allowed 5 excused absences per term. In addition to that, students also have 5 mental health days that they can use throughout the course of the school year. That's not per term, that's throughout the course of the school year. So with all of those excused absences, anything above that, if the students are sick, they have to have a doctor's note. If there's any unexcused absences, if they start to add up, that's when students start to get referrals, and then they get put on social suspension. You can also get put on social suspension for having excessive tardies. So 7 tardies to 1 class will get you on social suspension. To get off of social suspension, a student must go 20 consecutive school days without a disciplinary referral, a tardy, or an unexcused absence. So it's very important that students know that, when we're purchasing prom tickets, they cannot be on social suspension or get on social suspension after they purchase a prom ticket, because from the time that we purchase prom tickets until prom, there's not enough days in the school year for them to get off of social suspension. You have to go 20 consecutive days. So once you get on social suspension after purchasing your prom ticket, you're ineligible to attend prom. So this is very important that we want to stress to all students. Additionally, senior ditch day is not an approved day off. So, just keep that in mind. If, students are planning to take an unexcused day, just know that that might be that one day that will get them over the limit to be put on social suspension. So just be mindful. We want to make sure that attendance is priority, grades are priority. Students are doing what they need to do in order to be eligible for prom. One more thing we want to mention is that the prom tickets are non-refundable. So if a student becomes ineligible at any point in time due to getting on social suspension, due to getting on loss of privileges, that's unfortunately their ticket's going to be non-refundable. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that as well. And lastly, like I previously mentioned, students will not be able to attend prom if they're on loss of privileges. Loss of privileges is having a combination of 3 in or out of school suspensions. So suspensions could be due to attendance, tardies, cut Friday school detentions, or behavior if they're involved in an altercation. So please just be mindful of this. And if you have any questions at all, on this last slide, we've included myself, Miss Veronica Almendarez, my contact information, Miss Eileen Durkin, her contact information. We are both the co-sponsors of prom. In addition, we've also included Mr. Robert McCarthy, who is our assistant principal in charge of the dean's office. So if you have any questions or concerns related to attendance, discipline, social suspension, loss of privileges, anything like that, you can always reach out to him. But if you have any other additional questions regarding prom, please feel free to contact Miss Eileen Durkin or myself. And we look forward to hosting a fun prom for you guys this school year. So reach out with any questions. We hope you have a great day. Thank you.